Building the Future, How Baitali Group Powers Innovation with ArcGIS and Trimble. Content of the presentation is as follows. First, who are we and who is our team? Then some use of GIS general database. Then how we use GIS specifically in projects. And finally, the way forward for our company. For those of you not familiar with our company, we are Baitali Group. And as I stand here before you today in this room, I realize that I'm very much in the minority between all the government institutions and utility companies. But luckily I see some familiar faces, so that puts me at ease. Baitali is a group of companies that consist of companies in construction, production, agriculture, and more. We also have our own laboratory, and we also have some holdings in Guyana as well. What does Baitali do with GIS as of this moment? You can see this here. All the green check marks are companies that realize the benefits of GIS and that are already actively using them. And all the red companies do not use it as of yet, but that might change in the future, of course. I'd like to briefly focus on the way we use GIS during our daily operation, while also highlighting something very important, the people behind GIS in our company. Much like Steph stated, we do not have a large GIS team, only a few people dedicatedly involved. First, our process starts with creating of forms and templates in GIS, done by the very talented Kimberly, who you will find at our booth later on. After the forms have been created, we go over to the data collection. We do that with our survey team. They go on the field with software and hardware like Trimble GPS systems or Trimble total station systems, but also imagery programs and hardware such as drones or simple with their phones to do surveys. After the data has been collected, the data flows back inside, usually real time, and then the data has to be managed, it has to be cleaned, it has to be ordered, and it has to be checked if everything has been done according to planning, done by another one of our young talents, Manisha. Finally, after all the data is ready, it can go over to the analysis phase. This is usually the part in the process where multiple stakeholders are involved, be it the client, be it the rest of the project team. And finally, of course, this data has to be presented. But as you know, engineers hate presenting, so that responsibility usually falls to me, much like I am doing today for you guys. How do we use the ArcGIS general database? Mostly to create maps of specific areas. On the screen, you can see an example of the soil condition throughout the entire North of America. Very important information for us as a construction company because it provides insights to the local soil conditions and helps us with our designs. How much asphalt do we need? How much sand do we need? How will we build the road based on local conditions? Freely available information. Other things to take into account. What are the residential areas? Are there commercial areas nearby? Are there many houses and people living? Are there schools? Important information for us to take into account with traffic management, for instance. Another very important part is the protected areas. Are we in environmentally sensitive areas? Then we need to take extra precautions in case of spills, in case of harming of wildlife, flora and fauna, etc. All these freely available maps are used by us in the early design phases to make sure that our designs are as robust and as sustainable as possible. Here are some examples of some existing maps we've used for a project of Wanica urbanization. First, we checked what kind of roads are available in Wanica, both asphalt roads and sand roads. Then we checked what are the available waterways. So how is the current culvert and water management system, riolering? Very popular topic in Suriname, especially in Paramaribo. Then again, we checked how high is the population in all these areas. Where are the needs the highest? And finally, some elevations to realize how is the water flowing, how is the geography of the whole situation. So this is just a simple example of how we use the data before we start with a project. Finally, we have some specific maps we create for the project that is created by ourselves, our GIS team. This is a simple project in Nikeri where we had to rehabilitate all the waterways and agricultural roads. So we did an inspection, we collected all the data, and then we visualized it like this, and then we checked it with the existing waterways in Nikeri, showed it to the client who accepted it, and thus the project could proceed. Another way to do it is by doing stakeholder analysis in a very busy area in Paramaribo. Most of you will recognize the Boschenbrug there. This provides us with helpful data of what are the existing stakeholders in the area. Are they commercial? Do we need to take into account heavy traffic? Do we need to take into account local populations, etc.? This helps us building our management plans and strategies. Finally, some specific infra projects, how we use it. We as Baitali are commonly known for asphalting the roads, of course. So we do lots of soil investigation done by our laboratory, do a lot of boring, see what the soil conditions are, how thick is the asphalt on location. Unfortunately, Steph, we still do this very manually with paper. So we get some paper forms in that has all the data of these locations, the geographical data. All these paper forms are then, for now, manually inputted. And after it has manually been put it into an Excel sheet, this Excel sheet is finally transformed to usable GIS data. That looks a bit like this. This is a small example of some existing results that we have. All dots represent some data. So if you click on a dot, you would see what is the buildup of the road. So you would see 10 centimeters of asphalt, 15 centimeters of base course, and 40 centimeters of sand. Or for our existing roads, you would see some data of this is a section where the compaction was done very well or not, etc. And this can be useful not just for us, but also for future contractors that might have to rehabilitate this road. This data will then be able to help them in their own analysis and designs. Furthermore, we also use ArcGIS Survey 123, mostly for field inspections for infrastructure. So think of inspecting cracks, deformations, potholes, but also inspecting of structures such as bridges, culverts, but also buildings. On the right, you see some examples of the form that the team has made for data collection. This looks a little bit like this. We create the form, we collect the data is finally processed and analyzed. Here you'll find, on the left, you'll find a way it looks in Excel, and on the right, you'll find a way it looks for our survey team who collects all this data in the field. They simply open the app, they fill in the name of the project, they fill in the section, the road name, the things they have visually seen. They can add pictures, they can add geographical data, they can add remarks, and many more things, which helps us very much later in the design phase. Here you see a video based off the whole process. After the data has entered GIS, so to speak, you can visualize it very easy. Throughout this process, you can already see most of the benefits of why we use GIS, because it creates a lot of time savings for us, whereas before people had to draw a lot of things manually, had to go to the field and back to the office. Now the data is real time. An engineer can simply talk to the surveyor and see, hey, I saw you missed the point, could you go back and measure it? Or this picture is unclear, could you take it from a different angle? So the communication between project teams becomes very efficient. I think Vinicius showed some things about time saving and cost savings. This whole process is very clear for us what the time savings are. It has made our processes and working procedures a lot easier. Another advantage is that it has also made it easier for us to present data to the client, in this usually Ministry of Public Works. They expect of a contractor to do a full inspection of the road, the community, the surroundings. With the help of GIS, we can simply collect the data, visualize it, and even export a report readily available for submittal. So this has made our work a lot easier the last couple of years. Finally, of course, after all the data has been collected, we go to what project managers like to see the most, dashboards. GISAT provides us with very easy ways to visualize the data. Here you can see, for instance, some results of the drainage inspection. You can see which part of the drainage is good, which part is bad, what are the percentages, how would you take this into account in your budgeting, in your planning. So it becomes very easy for you to manage the project. Similar when it comes to responsibilities of buildings and local situations. We all know the cases of when contractors work and they come there to fix something, but they leave the place and it's worse than it was before. GIS provides us with a way to visualize the current existing situation, so that after we're done with the project, we can go to the client and say, look, this is what it was before, this is what it is now, this is the improvement we have made. Or we can also say, look, this building was already near collapse, so it's not our fault. It was already that case, so please don't blame us for it. So it helps both us as well as decision makers in making informed decisions about these kind of topics. And of course, you can easily see, for example, this was a project where you can see the most of the structures we did was building with some monuments and some fencing. And green shows the objects that were in good condition, but most of them were in moderate to poor condition. So this showed the employer that before we started, it was already in a very bad condition and that he needed to take into account the time aspects and the budgetary aspects. Finally, for some design, of course, you can, for structures, bridge inspections, for instance, without going to the field, an engineer can get a lot of visual material and data through GIS, especially when it comes to multiple structures in multiple locations with multiple damage mechanisms. GIS provides a very easy way of visualizing this, as well as generating usable data that can be used in rehabilitation design. Finally, stakeholders, very important for us as a contractor company. Everywhere we go, we are constantly surrounded by stakeholders such as the community, but also lots of the utility companies that are present here today. GIS provides us with a very easy way to visualize all the various aspects that have interconnectivity with each other, so that we, together with utility companies, with the client, with the supervisor, can make informed decisions, because all the data is freely available and can be judged independently. Finally, I showed this slide at the start of the presentation where we were. Of course, the goal is for all our companies to use GIS, because we see the benefits, we realize the benefits. So we want to achieve more from GIS. Currently, I think we're close to stage 1, unfortunately, Steph, but we're definitely working to get all the way to stage 5, as well as providing interactive maps for our clients, but also for the publics, so that they can see what we're working on, what the metrics are, what is going on the project near them, which will also help us in our communication with clients and stakeholders. Thank you for your attention.